Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to see you again today after discuss long subject yesterday about um, introduction to database. Today, basically, we have one subject, which is the web scraping, but the subject will be presented by BPS and also by Department of Statistics Malaysia, but have the same subject with different experience and different point of view. Uh, it will give you overview about web scraping. It is the same name, the same article, but I believe different organization or institution uh, can have different approach when implementing the web scraping. Before we start the session, I would like to share about our trainers for today. Today we have 4 trainers, three from BPS and one from DOS Malaysia. Let me share. Okay, you can see 4 trainers for today. If you remember that first 3 of them, you have met them in the first session of the workshop, and this is the fourth one, one Ahmad Ridwan. I think this is the first appearance in our workshop. Under its name, there is their current position, and below area is the experience and also position the trainer in relation with the big data. Okay, since our trainer ready now, uh, without further any ado, I would like to hands over the time to our trainer, uh, Pagiri. Who is the first trainer?
Yes,
Pagiri?
Sweka, for today I will be the trainer alone.
Oh, okay, I
Oh,
see.
yes,
So you're gonna have long subject for today.
yes,
Yeah.
it's all about hands-on in web scraping introduction.
Okay, good. Okay. All colleagues, I will give the time to Pageri Yesa Ermawan. Pageri, please.
Yes, thank you, Pak Sweka. Good morning, everyone. I hope you have a great day today and have a good spirit to learning about web scraping. Uh, Let me share screen. Okay, before we go into the hands-on in introduction of web scraping, I would like to present first material before we go directly. The outline in this training, first we will learn about HTML HTML element and inspect element, of course, for browser. Then we will study about scraping in Python, the technique to get item or element in HTML using Scrapy. Scrapy is one of the library for web scraping in Python. Then after we scrap the data, we will learn how to save it in files, JSON and CSV. Then we will learn how to save the data in database. We'll use SQL Server because yesterday, if I'm not wrong, we study about SQL Server. For case study, I will give Jobs ID. It's one of the website to present about job vacancy in Indonesia, and maybe a little bit Shopee.com, e-commerce website in ASEAN. Okay, the first, what is HTML? HTML is standard markup language for creating web page. It describes the structure of web page and consists of various elements such as text, elements, and attribute. What are those? Text is the syntax used for HTML, symbolized by this, like this. And the text should be open and closed, always. The example in HTML, there are many such as div, span, table, etc. For HTML element, consists of start tag, body content, and end tag. So the element consists of tag, content, the close tag. HTML element can be nested. So an element can contain another element. Thus, HTML attribute, all HTML element can have attribute. Attribute provides additional information about elements, and attributes are always written or defined at the beginning of the tag. Attribute usually always in name and value pairs, like names equals value, class equals value, like this. That is HTML attribute. Okay, and for web scraping, it's useful to use inspect element in web browser. Inspect element is a way to view and edit HTML and CSS web content from the web browser. The way is to right click on the website page that you want to inspect, then select inspect element. The code will be shown, and the position of inspect page can be set to the left or in below the website page. We can also highlight certain website component and see the specific code by using the arrow button in the corner of page inspector and selecting the website page for which we want to see the code. For example, I will directly use it like this. For the start, we will start scraping using this website because this website is provide to start learning scraping. Okay. It's quite long. We can right click and inspect here. It will show like this, and we can choose the element to see what its content. It has the element like text, span tag, and attribute class here. It is important to know about this before we start web scraping. Okay, that's all the basic about HTML, and we will learn more deep the next time in after scraping in Python. There are several well-known libraries that support web scraping process in Python, such as Scrapy, Beautiful Soup, and Selenium. In the last period, we had study about introduction to Python, how to make virtual environment, and how to install library. Here we will use library Scrapy. Actually, there are many libraries such as Scrapy, Beautiful Soup, and Selenium. Each library has advantage and disadvantage. The comparison is here. In Scrapy, the architecture of Scrapy is well designed to customize the middleware to add our own custom functionality. This feature helps us to project to be more robust and flexible. So for the large or complex project, Scrapy is the best choice to work on. If your project needs proxy data pipeline, then Scrapy will be the best choice. It can do things quickly because of its built-in feature, such such as usage of asynchronous system call, and it has a good ecosystem. This is one of the reasons for choosing the library for complex project. We can able to send multiple requests from the multiple proxy address. The next one is Beautiful Soup. When it comes to a small project or low-level complex project, Beautiful Soup can do the task pretty amazing. It helps us to maintain our code simple and flexible. If you want to learn things quickly and want to perform web scraping operation, then Beautiful Soup is the best choice. And the last is Selenium. When you are dealing with the core JavaScript feature website, then Selenium will be the best choice. So if there is some website that has many JavaScript function, usually it's hard to scrape using Scrapy or Beautiful Soup. So we use Selenium to handle it. But for some rank, it is not equivalent to Scrapy in terms of the speed. It has a good ecosystem for the development, but the problem is we can utilize the proxy very easily. That's the reason for the speed. Okay, if you are dealing with complex scraping operation that requires huge speed and with low power consumption, then Scrapy would be a great choice. The documentation of Scrapy can be found at docs.scrapy.org. Here is the Scrapy in a nutshell. First, we create the virtual environment and then enter to the environment that has been created. Install Scrapy library, and then create Scrapy project. After creating Scrapy project, we have to make a file called Spider in Scrapy. That is the where we code our web scraping function. Okay, for the example, I will demonstrate it. So if you have any question, you can ask directly using raise hand or directly unmute yourself. I'll make new folder here. And for the code, I will use Visual Studio Code. Just like what we learned in the first period. We'll choose the folder that we have created. Okay, it's still the first step is to create the virtual environment. Why we need to use virtual environment? Because it can divide our project cleanly, the use of the library. I'll name the environment VN. Actually, I have shared it in the drive this morning, so you can download it with web scraping training folder in day 2. It contains the code that I will use today. Takes time. Make sure that you use the Python version 3 because Scrappy only run in Python version 3. Okay, done. The next step, we enter to the environment that has been created. Okay. Okay. Now we have entered to the environment here, and we will install the Scrappy library. Okay, the next step, we create a Scrappy project. We also can see in the Scrappy. Here, installation, Scrappy tutorial. After the installation of Scrappy, we can create our project using this command, Scrappy start project and the project name. Because we will use this website to learn our first web script tutorial. So I'll name it Scrapworks, Scrappy start project, Scrapworks. It will generate the Scrappy project. Here actually you can look, you can start the first spider with cd Scrapworks. Scrappy can spider example.com. Spider name and web address that we want to scrap. Scrapworks, Scrappy, spider. For the first spider, I will name it works, and we will scrap this. So, okay, here in the project structure, you can see it. The Scrappy project, there are items, middleware, pipeline, and setting. We can set some rule like we have to obey the robot TXT, or we can just didn't obey it. But in this day, we will obey all the rules. Item and pipeline, we will learn in the next step. For first, here, we can look the spider that we have created. It's called quotes, the name quotes, and the star URL here directly redirect to quotes.scrap.toscrap.com. Here you can see that it is actually a list, so we can add it actually with some other URL, but today we just need to use one URL. And for the web scraping process, we'll write it here in this function dev parse. So actually the machine work like visit the star URL and call this function, the dev parse. Okay, we have create the spider to scrap, and we can run it with scrappy crawl spider name. Here the spider name is quotes. We can, okay, we will try to run it scrappy crawl quotes. Okay, it works, but we didn't do anything here because it's only call this function but pass. For the next step, um, in Scrappy, there are two selectors that we can use. When extracting web page, the important thing is to extract data from HTML. We know from this website, it contains HTML element, and it contains of list of quotes. We will get all the value here, but how do we select this value? In Scrappy, there is some function called selector. Scrappy has its own mechanism to extracting data. There is such a thing as selector in Scrappy because it can select a specific part of the HTML document using XPath or CSS. There are two types. The first is XPath. It's a language for selecting nodes in XML documents, which can also be used with HTML. And for CSS selector, is a language for applying style to HTML. CSS can define selector to apply styles with HTML element. Here is an example. If we use the expect function, and if we use the CSS function. Okay, we'll try. Here we can look, there is variable response. Response is a value that is returned by the Scrappy. from the website an object, so we can call it just like response. We'll for the first time we will get the title here, post to step. Title consists here the tag title. So if we use the CSS selector, can use it like this and run it. But it's not effective to run this scrappy spider to only look if it is the right selector. So Scrappy gives some way to get to what is called to select the HTML element, but we don't need to run the spider. It's called Scrappy cell here. Scrappy cell, and we'll enter the URL. Oh, sorry. Um, it's quite long. Okay. Okay. In this terminal, we can directly select what we want to know, just like here, title, what's to script, respond dot. Sorry. Respond dot CSS title. Here for CSS, because I'm not because usually I use CSS selector. Maybe in this web scraping tutorial, I will demonstrate more about CSS selector. Here is the example. If we want to get the title, but Scrappy here only return the DOM. So if we want to get the text that or the content in the element, we must use here. We give text and then get. It will return the string. Okay. The next, we want to get the quotes here. We can select it using this symbol. Click it. Now we know here that this sentence is in a span tag. and the attribute is class text. So we'll get it using span. Here is the what I like from using CSS response, CSS selector, because I'm also a web developer, so I'm more comfortable with it. We can use class with a dot here, and the value here is text, so we just need to write text. Dot here represent the class, and the value of the class is text, so we write text, and we get all the value, but it's still in a DOM. So we'll get text, the text, and get all. Here we get all the quotes from the first, the word as we have created, until a day without sunshine. Day without sunshine. Okay. If we use get all, we will get all the span text here because it is the same. Span, the class is text. If we want only the first, we can use get function. If we want to get specific, like the second here, we can choose like this, because before if we use get all, it return as a list, so we can choose specific number using number 2. List start from 0 index in Python, so for the number 2 we write 1 here. It is our choice, Harry, that show what we truly are. Okay. That is CSS selector, and we use it in a Scrappy cell. We didn't run the spider. Actually, we run it, but we can just try to select some other in this page using Scrappy cell. Okay. From the file that I have been uploaded, there are 4 examples here. The first is how to get the title and then get the author. Actually, there are 2 ways to extract the value using get function and extract function. It is same. We'll get the author here. Choose this button and click it, so we'll know that it is in a small text and have attribute of class author and item prop author. We'll get it. The difference between get and extract is if we use extract, it will get all the value. Sorry, we just want to get the text like this. If we use extract, we get the list value. If we use get, it will return a string for the first value. But if you use extract first, it will return the first just like using get function. And if you use get all, it will return just like extract function. Okay. We have learned how to get the text inside element, the value of the element. Now, if we want to get the URL like this is the next button. If we click it, it will redirect to the next page. So how do we know? How do we get the URL here? First, we will inspect element it. Click this button, and we know that the button of next button is inside lead tag with attribute of class next in a tag. If we get the a lead here for the selector, first we get the lead tag with next class of the value next. Then we select a tag inside the lead class next. If we use like this, we'll get the value, sorry, okay. Actually, we want to get the link here inside the attribute of href. This is attribute href. So we want to get the value. How do we get it? Using attribute. Sorry, attribute. The name of the attribute. The name of the attribute is href. Here we get the URL information or the value of the attribute. Okay, that's all for the selector. Any question about selector? Okay, we will continue to example number 2. In example number 2, this is some function in Scrappy. If we return an object using yield k value like this, it is directly can be exported to a file-based data. Okay. So here we will get all the information and create it into a k value data. Okay, first we will select all the element here, all. The element has the same class, right? The class is quote with div tag. So we can just select it and save it into some variable. We call it quotes for the variable, and we will select it, response.css, div tag, and quote value div quotes, like this. We will get all the DOM, and from the DOM we can select it again. But before that, maybe we can print it. Quotes, or we just use the scrappy cell here. So should be quote, not quotes. It return the DOM or the HTML element, and we will iterate it. So we can select it again into some specific value like text, the author, and text. We can iterate it using this function. And we can save it CSS. Why don't we use response? Because here we have selected the div quotes and save it into here this variable. After that, we will iterate it. So the next DOM is saved in quote, and we'll select the element from this variable quote, quote.css. For the text, we'll use span.cluster. Okay. Next is the author. The author in small text class author. So put the CSS small and get the text inside the element. And the last is text here. We can look that here it's not only one value, but it returns many. So we will not use get, but instead we will use get all. So it will return in list data. Okay, we'll print it one by one. Okay, we will close the Scrappy cell here and we will run the Scrappy using command Scrappy crawl quotes. Save it. Okay, there is some question. Mr. Gary, I have an error on my screen. You can start that first spider with scrap quotes. Scrap quotes, the term is not recognized as the name of. Okay, to start the first spider, uh, actually you have to run this command, not only the name. If I'm not wrong, you only type scrap quotes, but not all, like Scrappy, Crow, scrap quotes. No. Did you already make the spider file, Mr. Miss Afriana or Mr. Afriana?
Miss Afriana.
Did you already make the spider file or already make but cannot run the spider files? If you look in this nutshell, first we create the Scrappy project. I think you already do it. And scrap quotes here, we name it to the project. So for the first Scrappy start project, Scrappy codes. If you follow in my step last time, I make a project named Scrappy Quotes, and the spider, I name it quotes. From the error that you send, I think you only type scrap quotes. It should be Scrappy start project, Scrappy quotes, and then you move to the directory, cd Scrappy quotes, scrap quotes. Then you create a file, spider, Scrappy and spider name and web address. In this case, I use spider name as quotes, and the web address is quotes.toscrap.com. Is it clear? Okay. We can continue to the next step. After selector, we can save the script data in a file. But before that, I will, okay, the chat here. Yes. Chat here. I will print the text that we get. Oh, I'm sorry, it should not be print, but yield. because we want to save it into a file. Okay. To save it, we only need to run the scrappy crowd words. Before we save it, maybe we can run it auto. Oh, sorry. Cannot run because the robot.txt, I don't know why, but maybe we can change the setting. It should be run, but I don't know why it's getting result of not found in robot.txt. Maybe we can set it to false. It runs well in my project that I have uploaded, but I don't know why it's not run in this project. It's actually the same. First, we get the quotes DOM by select the div quote here. We select all because it has the same the same class, so it can be select all just by using this selector. After that, we iterate it and save it. After that, we save it. I think about robot.txt, we can ignore it because there is no robot.txt in that website. I'll continue. After we return, we save the text, author, and text using the selector. We return it using yield function. You can look, it return like this, key value using key text, and this value return an object. After that, we can directly save it using Scrappy command, Scrappy crowd quotes 2, because this is I name it quotes 2. The command only like this, strip O, and the file name. Okay. If we want to save it in a CSV file, here we get the file, text, author, tag, or we can save it in a JSON file. The Scrappy directly export it into the file that we want. Okay. For the next, we'll do how if we need to use the recursion function like click next page and get all the value until the end, right? Here in my project, I have created the first year, it's the same, but I only need to add the code here. First is we save the URL of the next button here. We will look. It is inside Lee text with class next, and we need to get page the href value here. Lee text and class next. In a tag, we want to get the value of the href attribute, right? Now, in the last page is 10. There is no next button. So if we select it, it will not return anything. I'll make the if statement here. If next page is not known, or it is still there is the button, the new URL is the response dot URL join next page, and we call the parse function again. Yield scrappy dot request the new URL that we want to scrap, and we want to scrap it using what function. Here we will scrap it using parse function here. So if there is still the button, it will call this function and call it again until the page number 10. Okay. Here we have 10 quotes. I will delete it and run this code. Scrappy quotes 3. I'll save it in CSV file. Okay. Here we have 100 quotes. It runs until the end of the page. In the end of the page, it didn't get the next button, so this function is not called again. Okay, we have learned how to save the scrap data in a file. And next, we will learn about item. Here, item in Scrappy is the main purpose of scrapping is to extract stored data from unstructured source. Spider can return extracted data as items, Python object that have key values. Usually item, if we use item, we will use the pipeline too. Here, items object class and pipeline class. After the item is scrapped, the item will be sent to the pipeline to undergo several processes that are executed sequentially. The pipeline class here is actually a Python class that implements a method. Common use of pipeline are placed to data validation, check duplication, data cleaning, and store data to database. But here, because the data is quite clean in scrap to quotes website, we only will create store data to database function in pipeline. How to do it? The first install database connector. In this training, we will use SQL Server as the database. We can install it using pip install py or dbc. Okay, I will install it here. Pip install py or dbc. Okay, success. First, we will describe the item class. Here, actually, the item class is a variable or column or value that we want to scrap. Before we scrap text, author, and text, so we only need it like this. We'll copy it. And to yield it in the quotes tree, we directly use something like this. But after we define the item, first we must import the item using this code from items, import script quotes item. Script quotes item here is a class. And then, just like before, we select the quote and we save it, but in item. First, we define the items. It's a scrap quotes object and has three value: text, author, and tag. We save it and we yield it. This is the same code as before. I'll copy it to this. Sorry. Okay. Traffic crowd. Oops. Okay. It return the value. We can also save it in a file paste, just like before. But now, after we declare the item here, it's better for us to save it in a database. Before we have, yesterday we have studied about SQL Server. I have made the database ASEAN training here. The table is still empty. So we'll declare it in a pipeline. First, we import the PYODBC. Import PYODBC. It is a library to make a connection into SQL Server. In the first scrappy, it always has the process item and return the item. So we will make a function in it that will call it for the first time. Remember that every time you yield items, it also call the pipeline function here. Actually, the one that return it like this is this process item. Okay. First, we'll make init function that contains create connection into SQL Server and create table because we don't have any table. All right. And then we'll make the create connection function. In it here, it always called in a class every time it is declared. So after we call init, it also call create connection and call create table function. The create connection function is like this. We make the connection self.con pyodbc.connect. The server name, it is based on your computer or server, right? In the first time you open SQL Server Management Studio, it always state there. The database we will use is ASEAN Training here. The trusted connection, yes. And then we make the cursor for this connection. After we create connection, we will create the table. this table. The first if execute, drop table if exists. So if it is exists, it will drop the table. And then we create the table quotes using 3 column, text, author, and tag. I will state all in a text data type. Okay. After we create connection, after we create table, it will call this process item. Process item always called in this class every time we yield the item. So before we return item, we need to insert the data. Self.connection. Oh, I'm sorry, self.insert item. And we make the insert function here. Actually, it is not needed. Here, it is the insert function. The SQL is insert into quotes table with values. First is the text item, and then author, and then text. Why we need to join here? Because tag, item tag, it is still in a list data type. So we will join it. After that, we execute it and commit. Okay, before we don't have the table, but we will run it. Scrappy crowd quotes. Okay, we refresh it. All right, the table is created, and then the data has been inserted. Actually here, other than insert function, you could also make the function such as cleaning data, sorry, cleaning item, and you can call it from here, self cleaning item, just like that. Right? But because our data is quite clean, we don't need to do the cleaning or validation. We directly insert it. That is the pipeline function in Scrappy. Item function to describe the item that need to run in pipeline. And quotes is where we scrap the data. That is the basic of Scrappy. I hope you all can learn it more deeply. You can always look at the Scrappy documentation. It has such a setting. Actually, there are many features here, just like setting robot.txt, concurrent requests like this. Concurrent request, we set the maximum concurrent request that we want to run. The default is 16. It can be just what you want. And sometimes there are also websites that need to have download delay because the website already know that it is a robot or a scraping robot, so we need to delay it. There are many settings here, but for the basic, it is like that. In the spider, we select the data, in item we describe the object or the table, the data, and in pipeline we will need cleaning, data validation, and insert into database. Or if you don't need to insert to database, you can always use the scrappy function such as save to CSV or JSON. Okay, it's still 30 minutes, but I hope we can finish it. Case study in jobs ID and Shopee. Because it's only 30 minutes, I will only explain it um, from the project that I have been uploaded. I will not use pipeline here because I will not save it to database, but I still describe the items because it is make you more easier way, your job easier, uh, your job easier. Okay, I will open the jobs ID. Okay. Jobs ID is one of the job vacancy website in Indonesia. Here is the interesting. You can look that start URL. It's not from the jobs ID, but it start from /berkas/industry. Why? After you scrap some many website, little by little you will know how the right way to scrap, from where you will scrap to get all the data. If we directly get from the homepage, you will need to search it, right? You need to search it. But here, I start it from the category of the jobs. Okay, we will open one of them, IT, the job about IT, backend developer, Java Spring developer here, right? It will get all the job vacancy here from the category. We enter one by one, and then from the list, from one of category, we enter one by one also, and we continue until the last page, right? Here. Now, we will get the data here as at the title, the place, the salary. Oh, there is no salary here. Sometimes, we will use this example. Title, place, salary, category, the description of the job, the requirement, the size of the company, and so on, right? That's why I will not use the home URL. Instead, I will use the category URL to get the first data. I'll explain here. First, we visit the category URL, and then we get all the URL that is here. It has the same tag and has the same tag, right? Class row, Lee. So we'll get all the URL here. we can use respond.css, ul, then li, and then a tag. After that, get all the href value. After we get all the href value, of course, we need to clean it. We will only use the, because here in another href, there is also something like ul and li tag. So it is also scrap, but we will clean it by using here I for I in industry URLs if it contains industry or the category of the job vacancy. It is kept here. All right. After that, we will iterate it for industry URL. In industry URLs, we yield or call the next URL. The next here we use parse industry for parse function, and then we use parse industry to parse this page. Here we call, you can look the callback self.parseIndustry. So we call the parse industry here, and then we will get all the href, just same as like before, all the href here, like an API developer, Java Spring developer, respond.css, h1.certificate. Ya. Kemudian setelah dari developer dia ada Nasia, Salwa, alias Fahri, dan Nasrani. I'm sorry here, Edge Industry. Edge Industry, H3, able. H3, A with class of bold to get the link. H3, A dot bold. We will get the value of the H tag. Get. All right. We also look if there is the next button. We'll always add the next page by one and recursively until no more edge font for this industry. Call it here. If there is the next button, it will run this code. But if there is no, it's only until here. The next thing, after we enter the next page, from in developer here, the next page, we will dive into parse X function. Look here, the callback, we call the parse X function. And we define the item as X equal jobs ID item. Here, jobs ID item, we call it. The first that we will save is the URL. Why it is need to save the URL here? Because if something happen about the data or if we are not sure, we can always look for the URL again. The URL can be get by respond.url. Then the industry is it is gotten from here. The meta is like a parameter that is also delivered to the function that has been called like this meta page one to call the parts industry. That means when we call parts industry, we get to call the response.meta page. The first is one, and then after response.meta.page one plus one. After that, if there is next page, meta page sama dengan next page. After become two, the next page, it will turn into three. All right. In this case, in this parse X, the meta that is sent, the name is industry. So we'll get the industry. Industry is gotten from here. After that, we will look into the job information. First, the title. The title here. The title here, it is in H1 tag with class clear top bold. So we can select it by using h1.clear top.bold. Select the text, right? And then the location here. It is in span class location. So the selector span.location text. I also give the replace done because there is Bandung done. Done is N in English language. Bandung and one other city. So I will get the Bandung only. After that, we will got the info here. Info, we will select it. Div that has the class of call XS12, call SM6, call MD4. Here is the clean function. Actually, I decided to make a clean function here. If we call the clean function, it will return the data that is already cleaning the string. Just like here, you can see it. It's like 4 million, and the string is not quite good until 7 million. So I decided to create clean function to replace the something like enter and replace it with space. Okay, for the salary here, just like this, clean info salary. It is in call XS12, call SM6, call MD4. Same, right? Same. There are many that has this class, and for that info, we'll iterate it. For the salary, it is inside the small tag I'm sorry, span tag with class semi-bold small text that has the value of gaji mean salary. It means salary info is span dot semi-bold, and we make to know if it is the minimum range until the maximum range here. If length salary is 1, add salary min, add salary max. Because there are many, in this case, there is also gaji dirahasiakan or the salary is secret. I make the if statement here. If there is value, it will save the salary information, but if there is no, it will not save anything. None. For the description and requirement here, can look here, the description. This in div tag with class of job desk. We get all, requirement we get all. The company information also is located here. The industry, the size of the company, here, semi-bold, B with semi-bold, B tag, semi-bold class, company size, and then after all the item of x variable is initiated, we yield the x. Sometimes in the website there is some changes of the HTML element, so we have to make sure the scrappy progress is not stopped, and we have to modify the code. Okay, I will run this scrappy crawl, the name of the spider, jobs ID. I will save it into CSV. Before we always get this log, right? If we want to hide the log and in running the scrappy, you can use this command -l info. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm still in scrapworks directory. I have to move to jobs ID and run it again. Here you can look. It will not write the log, but already run because it is quite large. We will wait it, and while we wait it, we can move to Shopee Spider or Shopee website. Okay, I think we all know Shopee, right? But I don't know, here it always redirect to Indonesia because it detects that I'm in Indonesia. So it's all right, maybe if we use Indonesian language. In Shopee, BPS use some other what is it called? Use some other approach. We will not get from the HTML element, but we will get from the API. What is API? API is an application programming interface. So we will only get the data. But how do we know that Shopee has an API that we can use? Here I will demonstrate to you. The first is you call inspect element and choose the network. API usually appear in XHR. Okay, I will reload it. It calls all the information that this website access before giving us information, and we can search it. We can search the API here. Maybe there are the good API that we can use, like this. We get the category list. I'm sorry, what? Get. We get the category list that is displayed in here. Category list, electronic, computer accessories, handphone and accessories. We get that information, electronic, makanan dan minuman, computer and accessories. This, we get the information and we don't need to use the HTML selector like that. We just need to call it the request URL. We get the data. Maybe I will not use incognito. We'll get the data, the category list that we can get without using HTML selector, right? We directly get the JSON, and API rarely change, not like the web homepage of the website. It usually changes if there is something promo, right? In Shopee, usually always have a promo in 12/12 or something like that. The HTML always change, but in the API, it rarely changes. So we can make it the first time you will need to scrap something, you need to look if there is something API that you can use. But don't forget, you have to look at the robot.txt. You have to look at the robot.txt. If this API you can scrap or not. Robot.txt, not robots. Robot. You have to look at the robots.txt if this API can be scrapped or not. But in Scrappy, actually, there is this setting that we can set if we will obey the robot.txt. Here in Shopee, I set it to false because in robot.txt actually there is something that we can do that, but I need to do that. Can set it to false if we want. And this is the API that I found in category. It is more complete than this one. It return until the subcategory. But in here, we will only get the main category. First, we describe the item. I'll set it to this same as this: display name, cat ID, image, parent is adult, for right? And then to get the JSON file, we only need to use this function JSON.loads response text. So the response text it convert into JSON, and after that we can just save it and select it using the usual JSON. We save it into categories, and then we iterate it and save it like this: category main display name, category, we iterate it. There are many main. This is the JSON list, and we iterate the list. We select the main, and then we select the display name. We select main, we select the name, just like that. And save it into the item. After that, we yield it. It's the same as before, but if we get the API, it usually rarely changes. Different to the HTML page, the site like Shopee e-commerce, it always change every month, so we will need to modify the project. But if we get the API, maybe it makes us easier to work. Okay, I will go back into the jobs ID. You can look here that info. We state we don't need the log, but we need the info. So it is only right. We have crawled 190 pages, scrap 139 items. This is what I mean by using items, so we can get the info. We have scraped how many items. In the second minute, we have crawled 365 pages at 175 pages per minute. Here there is something error, maybe because there is some HTML that is not found, but it's okay because the scraper still continue. Maybe it's only one job that is made the error here, and the scraper still continue. And now it has 1,643 items. We can look at the CSV here. Maybe I will close it because this is quite long. Yeah, it's okay, right? And we will try the Shopee. We have, oh, sorry. We will need to go into the Shopee folder and run it. Scrappy Crown, the name of the spider, the name Shopee, Scrappy Crown Shopee. We will save it into CSV file. We don't need the log, but we need the info. Oh, because we only save the category, so it is quite fast here. We get the data. We get the data here, just like this. Electronic, yeah, just like that. It's only the category, and if you want to get the data, you can just do like here, shopee.co.id/electronics CIT.121. What does it mean? You can look here. If you want to get the item of the electronic, you can just call this URL electronic strip CIT category mean CIT category mean and the ID of the category, right? Okay, if we want to get another category item, maybe we'll use this computer accessories. This you can see computer accessories and the ID 134. You can just make the Scrappy to go in this URL after getting the category. After that, you can get the item. The item you need to maybe look for another API that you can use because the time is over. Maybe only here you can try alone to use this approach, API approach or the HTML approach. Thank you for your attention. I give it back to Pak Sweka.
Thank you, Pak Gary, for the presentation. Any other colleagues that have question? There is one question, Pak Gary, from Rosalinda Mapaye, our colleague from Philippines.
Oh yes. How can we check if the website allows web scraping? Actually, we can check it from the robots.txt, right? Jobs ID / robots.txt. Here, user agent star disallow star professional disallow user login login. It means we don't have permission to scrap all the URL that has /professional or the URL that has user /login LinkedIn, right? For Shopee, here you can look. We can, the Google bot or Bing bot can scrap, cannot scrap everything that has in this URL. Shopee.com/chart, Shopee.com/checkout. It's not allowed. And for us, the user agent star, the crawl delay, it has to be set into 1 second. In Scrappy, in setting, you can set it download delay. It is delayed into 1 second. Just save it. It's okay. And the last time we use category slash API slash shopee.com/API/v1/category list. You can look here that it's not disallowed, so we can crawl it actually, the category, right? You can crawl it actually, the category API, you can use it. Even if I set the robot.txt here into true, it still works. I will use it. Scrappy crawl, maybe this time we save it to JSON. See, it still works. It still works. It still run. If there is something that is disallowed in robot.txt and we set it true in Scrappy, it will run. Okay, I think okay, Pak Sweka, or any other question?
Any other question from participant? Okay, if no question from the others, I have a question, Pak Giri. Okay, according your explanation that web page were considered change quite often. So based on experience and common practice in BPS, can you share to us how often website or web page need to be observed to make sure that associate program or Python still valid to the website?
Okay, it's a good question because sometimes we get this problem. For API, maybe it is year in year 1 year, 2 year, it will change, but maybe it's not quite change. Usually the API use version, just like Shopee. Here, Shopee have uh, version 1, version 2, just like that. Before I have start scrap Shopee, I found the version 1 and it's still valid, it's still running. But Shopee now use version 2, right? So the API may be changed, but usually in a yearly, or I don't know. And in a big company, it will make a version. So the first thing to do in scrapping, if I can give you, just look for the API. But usually it is difficult. Only some website that provide the API, like Shopee here, we can get it quite easily because it is using get function. Sometimes in Traveloka or something like that, use GraphQL, it is quite difficult. So if you think that is difficult, you can always choose the HTML approach. But you have to know, in this era, the website, change quite fast, especially like e-commerce, Shopee or another Tokopedia. It will change in month because every promo they make a big difference in HTML. But for some website like Jobs ID here, I make it 1 year and it's still running. So it is based on the website. If you think that this website, the what is the display of the website, you look change quite often. Maybe HTML approach is not the best approach, but if the API is difficult to get, yeah, we can always use HTML approach, but we need to look of the project that it's still running or not. Because in BPS, some time ago, we also didn't look that some scraper did not run because there is change in HTML. So it is based on the website, if I can say.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. I give chance once again to our audience if there is any question. No question? Okay. So I consider that first session. Okay. Yeah, I have admit Mr. Ahmad Ridwan. Okay. Okay. We can end our first session. Before we continue to next session with the same topic about web scraping, but from point of view Department of Statistics of Malaysia. Now we can take a break time for 10 minutes and then we continue to the next session. Okay, Pak Gary, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome, Pak Suka.
Okay, everyone, we join again in next 10 minutes. Okay, all the participants, we are back to our classroom. Uh, okay, this is our trainer, Mr. Wan Ahmad Ridwan.
Hai, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, as our trainer already here, I will hand over the time and the floor to Mr. Wan Ahmad Ridwan. Mr. Wan Ahmad Ridwan, please.
Thanks. Okay, Assalamualaikum and good morning to everyone. I'm glad to be here today in this regional workshop to share on web scraping cases in Malaysia. So basically today I'm going to split my knowledge session into two main topics, which is the first one is we're going through some Malaysia cases on web scraping process, the architecture, the flow of the web scraping process that we've done here in DOS Department of Statistics Malaysia. And secondly, I'm going to go through some simple web scraping tools. This one is not the same as what Gary have taught us today, but this is more to the readily available tools. This is for the purpose to understand some of the basic of the web scraping. It doesn't involve any Python code, it's coding free. And we're going to use it such as Botsol and Google Chrome scraper extension. And I believe what we have learned this morning is very technical. I hope everyone is okay. And I hope that everyone get something from what Gary has taught us just now. It's not an easy thing, but it's an opportunity for us to improve time to time. So first, we need to know what is web crawling and web scraping. There's two terms here, web crawling and web scraping. So first is web crawler is a repetitive process in finding and fetching from the list of URLs. So what Gary have mentioned before, we are not start our scraping from the home page, but we directly get into the category URL, so it might be easier. And what is web scraping? Web scraping is automatically retrieving and processing information from the website itself. So this is the two terms that I think it complement each other. So secondly is the basic logic of the crawler. So we have here this is our input. So the input is from the websites. So basically we would have our crawler, which is the crawler engine consists of a bot, or we call it spider or a crawler, and then it passes to a parser. So this crawler engine, we built it in-house production, customized web crawler to get information from the input, to get the HTML pages before we pass it into a data and extract it to and store it to our storage in multiple formats of data. We can store it as CSV file, as well as JSON or SQL. And here we also have readily available web scraping tools in the internet. There is so many. This is some of the example: Boxol, Web Scraper, Octopus, and PassHub. But there's a pros and cons for this web scraping tools, which is the pros. It does easy and simple to use because it's coding free. So people who doesn't like to do something, do hard code, so it would be easier for them to use these tools, as it is a point and click system. And for me, these tools actually, if we can let's say get used to it, it will give us a better understanding when we go into our customized web crawler, in order to understand the tags, the selectors, you know, the pagination, how do we move from one page to another page, and we select the item, and then we scrape the information from the HTML, from the text, and so on. But the cons is, of course, it has a free version with limited function, and it has a paid subscription. So it will be some sort of a cost, more costly for us to use, and it depends on the built-in scraper that they already set it in their tools. So rather than our customized web crawler, when we are using Python, so we are able to customize according to what our websites, according to what are the type of data stored in website. Different websites have different structures, so it would be better if we can go through all the crawler engines that we customize it on ourselves. So like what has Gary taught us this morning. Okay, next is this is some of the example of basic steps in crawling, which is this is the step for us to get the data from our web crawling pages, from our URL page. So we need to have the URL page first, and then we need to create a pagination. This is in the context of the e-commerce websites. Then we need to build a loop for each product in particular page, such as this page. All right. So there's in one page, there's so many information that might link to the detail page. And then we need to extract the data for each item. It's either we want to extract from the main page or from each detail page of the product. And we need to run the task and save, export the data. So now I'm going to explain about our web scraping case in Malaysia. We have implemented this in our price intelligence module, which in this module is So this module is involved in our price collection in our online web. So we are focusing on online price throughout 20 various online sources here. Then we do some crawling process and we store it in our price lakes. Then it will go to our analytics and visualization. So this is what we have done right now in DOSM. So in DOSM crawler detail, here is so in this crawler detail, so we have if I can show you. Okay, this is hold on, This is the basic data acquisition flow in our environment, which from the websites we have a crawler, and then we use a crawler as a crawling service to crawl from a list of URL and store it into a HTML server. Then we use Spark to pass the data from the HTML server. And we also use Kafka in picking up and hold the data that has been passed, then insert bulk into HBase, our storage, our database storage. So the Kafka is, if I can do some explanation of Kafka, it's like we already passed the data from Spark, which is there's a lot of data, even it is a small data, but there's a huge amount of data from the e-commerce sites. Then since it's very large, so Kafka it's like a pail that we need to hold some amount of data, and when it fill up, then we turn it into a bigger basin or pail. So it controls the amount of data that will be pushed into the HBase. So this is DOSM crawler detail. So this crawler detail specifically will show the process of the crawler from picking up the URL that we already list in our database. We use MariaDB to store all the category URL. So this URL is where we find it to scrape our data. As what Gary also mentioned just now, we start with category will be easier. So like we have a Shopee, then we go to each category and get the URL, so it will be much easier to have this list of category to directly assign to our crawler to crawl the data. So the list of the URL will be in our MariaDB, and then there's a pusher to act as an engine to send a category URL, this category URL, to queue at Beanstalk ID. Beanstalk ID is a simple, fast work queue. So the function of the Beanstalk is to distribute the URL equally to all available workers. So we have some amount of workers in our environment, we have 24 virtual VM server, which is with total of 137 workers that will do all the crawling. It's either on the index crawler or in our content crawler. So this index crawler and content crawler is the main process for data crawling, which contains worker. So it will do all the things that Gary have taught us just now to crawl the information from the HTML, and we assign it. The workers will assign it into a multiple virtual machine server, and they will crawl each HTML page that we already list it in our URL list before. So then there is SSDB. This is SSDB is a hash storage to prevent multiple crawling from the same page for content and detail page. So here in this web index web crawler, if we can see, our process is, this is the, we will go through this item here and the content crawler. These two information is link each other basically, but the most time we do crawl and scrape from the index crawler, but the content crawler is the information of the product itself. So the detail of the product will be on the page of the product, but the index crawler is in the front page of the list of in that particular category. So if I can go to the next slide. So this is the index page, what we call it index page. So this index page that crawler will scrape basic information on this index page, the title of the product, the price of the product, and our scraper will also scroll the URL to the main page, the content detail page. So that this particular URL will lead to our content crawler. So if and it will only crawl one time at content crawler. So index crawler, the price, let's say we crawl it on a daily basis. So every day we'll get the price for the every day. So for today, tomorrow, and the next 2 days. But for the content page, we only need to crawl it one time only. Okay, so the URL will be sent back. The URL that URL of the content detail page will be sent back to the beanstalk to go through to the content crawler. This is what I said before. It will go to the content crawler, and the content crawler will, the beanstalk will push the crawler in the content crawler to crawl and scrape the full information of the URL of the content page. So this is the content detail page. So let's say from the index page, we only get the price and the name of the product, but from the content page, we might get more information like the seller, the rating of the seller, the how does the how effective the seller responds to the customer, and other information that appear in this content and detail page. So next, this is after it's stored to the HTML page. So the data that we crawl, then it will be stored to the intermediate repository HTML. Then only it will go to the previously that the data acquisition flow that I have shown before. Then it will go to the parsing process at Spark, and and the data will be transferred to the HBase. Then we have at the end of after the HBase database, the database has been stored into the columnar data in HBase. So then we have some system to generate the data set. We call it dataset generator using Spark to extract the data from HBase into SCSV format. So this is our dataset generator. So basically that is the flow of our this is the flow of our web crawling process in DOSM to get the online price data. So with the data that we get, this data, we have done some visualization and analytics, and this is some of our visualization. We are using Tableau in our visualization. We do some descriptive analysis, trend analysis, and also dependency analysis. Also from the data that we get from this price intelligence system, especially during these days in COVID-19 pandemic, we have a lot of issue to get a data to do a survey. So some of the data that we get from this web scraping technique and web scraping process is the price of airline price during for a specific route, and we do also during the movement control order starting earlier last year. We have done we have used crawling data for some of product to be an indicator for CPI calculation. Apart from that, we also use some of our crawling data on housing rental. We get it from multiple various websites that advertise the house rental price, and 45.6% of housing rental data for our international comparison program. We have in 2017 cycle, we have used in submission to ADB. We are using online price data. So there is some limitation still there is some limitation and room for improvement for this web scraping process, such as we need always to update the crawler. So the crawler is we need to monitor the crawler if it is not produce an output. So we have a monitoring system to see whether our VM server is working, our workers are doing their work to crawl and scrape the data to pick up the HTML page, and then we will monitor it on a daily basis. Basically, in the morning we will see how is the trend of the data that we get from the previous day or previous week. Then other limitations, we have to build a bunch of crawlers for different sites. So this is I don't think this is not exactly the limitation, but this is our challenge. This is our challenge in making sure that because the different websites have different structure, so we need to have different type of process for each crawler. Like what Gary said earlier when he start his presentation this morning, like Python, they are using Scrappy, sometimes they're using Selenium and maybe beautiful soap. So this is a challenge for us, and we need to improve day by day. So as per question before, the websites also change frequently. So, but I don't. It is not very frequent, but sometimes it changes without we unnotice it. We didn't notice that it has been changed unless we have a monitoring system to see that, oh, we don't have the data for the last 2 days. So there might be something changed from the of the structure of the websites of the HTML fiche. So that makes we didn't get the data for that particular day. Then there is a legal issue involved in this web crawling. The access of to the publicly available websites. How does we need to take a look into the how does this data have been protected by copyrights and other laws. Storage limitations is always an issue, but as far as we in Malaysia, we already have big data environment, so this has been taken care of, and that's the limitation for this web crawling. So we also have been published some research paper from our web scraping data. So in order to leverage our knowledge and to improve our analytic skills. So next, I'm going to use okay, Mr. Fatur Rasman have asked a question about DOSM web. I think you couldn't access to dosm.gov.my. As far as I'm concerned, there's no protection need to be applied, but I don't know if you are accessing from outside Malaysia. I will check back with maybe our IT person, our portal technical person. Thanks. So I'm going to share okay, next is I'm going to show some demo on web scraping using tools. Pak Sueka, can you give me can you allow my other account to be a presenter, because I have some problem with my notebook here. So I'm going to show from the slide. I'm going to show from my PC, but I will talk here from my notebook.
Sorry.
The name is Ahmad Ridwan.
Ahmad Ridwan. Let me check. I think everyone should be able to share. So, Ahmad.
No, you cannot start screen share while the other participant is sharing. Oh, I can't.
Yeah, you must
need
stop
to-
the first one.
Hold on, how do I stop the first one? Because my screen just blank.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Let's
Stop share.
try.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right. I'm going to share slide first. Okay, so this is, I'm going to show you some demo on BotSol here. BotSol is a web scraping service with readily available template. I don't know if everyone have heard about this these tools, but I think this is one of the famous tools in getting data from Google Maps. So in BotSol, we have certain readily available template, but it doesn't have customization to do our own template here. So it's like some sort of limited, but we in Department of Statistics Malaysia also use this for Google Map as a crawler, and especially in the small size crawling data. So this is the basic the first interface that we will see, and then it will go directly to our Chrome Google Maps, and it will scrape all the information depends on what we need to find in the Google Maps. So I'm trying to show some demo here. So this is the BotSol. Can you see?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes, we can see.
Yeah, all right. So this is the
Yes.
BotSol crawler. So let's say we want to crawl Google Maps crawler. So this is the free version. Of course, there's limitation. Let's say this for the Google Maps review crawler, they only can crawl up to 5. I think up to 10 reviews for each information, and up to only 5 information. But for this Google Map crawler, so let's say I select this Google Map crawler. Okay, so this is what the Google Map crawler. So this is I'm going to. Can you see the browser here? The Chrome browser.
I only see the Google Map crawler, not the browser.
Hold on. Let me share.
Maybe you need to share the
Yeah,
entire
I'm
desktop.
trying to. Oh, this one. All right. Okay, Pak Sweka.
Yes, you can see.
All right.
Oh,
So this is when we open the Google Maps and the boxel crawler, it will open automatically when we select the Google Maps crawler. So then it will automatically open our Google Maps. So this Google Maps, let's say I delete this existing data. So let's say I want to search for information on petrol stations in Putrajaya. So I can search here. So there will be a list of petrol stations in Putrajaya in this Google Maps. Hold on. So this list, it will crawl all of this list. Okay, so let's say I start the bot. Then it will start crawling all the information from what appear here. So this one, start with this one, and then it will move. And then all the information here will be crawled into the, but it already defined which information that will be crawled in this Google Maps crawler. So this is the free version, but if we can get the paid version, the full version, then the full version, if I'm not mistaken, it has other attributes like latitude and longitude. So this has been used at DOSM to get the location of certain information and use as supporting data for us in defining the facilities around our community. So this is a basic simple. So this bot soul is for me is easier for us. It's not I'm saying that it's not I'm saying that we are not it's not that I'm not suggesting we doing using Python, but if you want to do some pilot or we want to study first what we can do, so we might use this kind of web scraping tools to see first how does it works and how does this data can be used for us to do some analysis or to do some to get some problem statements and so on. So this is the first one, and the second one I would like to introduce to I think many of us already might have already familiar or might use this tools, which is a web scraper for Chrome. So web scraper for Chrome is This is a web scraper for Chrome. Chrome extension. This is a simple tool, point and click interface with the ability to extract thousands of records from websites, and it will lead to data scraping from multiple pages, multiple data extraction types. So you can go to this through our Chrome, Google Chrome, so we can add an extension of web scraper, and then we can do some crawling in a certain websites. So this websites, let's say we also can go to do some pagination, some index page, and we can get the information. So this is what have been done in using Scrappy this morning. So, but this is some tools that it might look easier, but it also has a limitation. Certain websites might not easily get scrapped using these tools, but we might use it to learn something, to get some clue. How does the selection of the text, how does the selection of the element from the HTML page. So let me show some demo. Let's say we want to scrap from I'm going to scraper. Hold on. Okay, once you have installed the web scraper extension, so you will see when you go to the inspect here, right click and inspect here, then you will see the web scraper tab here. So just now, let's say I open one of our websites, let's say Tesco. So this is the websites that, let's say this is the website that we want to crawl. So these websites will then I go to directly to some category. So I get the URL. Then I need to create a sitemap here. So let's say this is a fresh food. So we also can add a multiple URL here. So if we have multiple, let's say groceries. Oh, that's what went wrong with. Like drinks, right? So I can put it here, another URL. So this is same as the list of URL that we have, as what I mentioned here. If you use our customized web crawling service, then we will list this type of URL into our list of URL to be picked up by our workers to crawl from each page. So this is what I mentioned is the index page. And when we click into this is a detailed content page. So let's say from this, by using this web scraper, I'm going to scrape this information for each of all page in this index page. So I can create this sitemap, then we need to add a selector. So first selector is we wanted to have a pagination. So pagination will lead us to this page number 1 and up until page number 32. Okay, so this by clicking the next button. So let's say we can see in HTML. Let's say I'm trying to open this. If we open this HTML, so we can see what are the tags of the next button. It is span tag. Okay. So from here, then I need to create a pagination link.
Mr. Wan Ahmad,
Yeah.
are you intending to share something? Because we cannot see anything
Oh yeah.
to be shared.
Sorry. So can you see here?
Yes, you can see right now.
Okay. So this is the pagination that from previous presenter, Mr. Gary. The pagination here will lead us to the next page and so on, from the first page and then go to the second page, third page, and up until the 32nd page. So there is two ways in this web scraper tools. First, we create pagination. So let's say I create this pagination link. So which will lead, the type will be a link. So we want to click this link to go to the next page. The process will be like that. So then we need to select the selector and we select this button and done selecting. So then it will lead us to the next page. So I'm going to select the parent selector is in the root and add a pagination link. So it will always have a link for each page. When it go to the second page, then it will have another link to the third page. And when it goes to the third page, it will link to and so on. So I'm going to save this as a select pagination link selector. Then from this page also, we want to have each of these information to go through to their page. So I'm going to create another selector which is product link. And this will also be a link because this is a link that will lead to this product page. So I'm going to select this. And for this time around, I would like to select not this only this one, but all of the product that appear in this page. So it will be every single product in this page. Then done selecting, and I'm going to use a multiple selection because it has more than one selection. So it will be in the root and also in pagination link. So in each pagination link, so it will appear this product link. So if we can see to the selector graph, so when from the this is the root page first, then it will be split. It will split it into a next page, and it will also go to the each of the product link. So in this product link, then we will scrape the data from each of the information that we need. So if you can see here, so it will always lead to this product link. So I'm going back to the selector. So this in this product link, I'm going to add a new selector. Let's say when the product link is clicked here to go to the page, I have some issues with my network. Okay, for this pagination link, for this page, so I'm going to scrape information on the name of the item, let's say the product title. So the type is the text. So we want to keep this text into our to scrap this text. So this is text, and then we select this text and select 10. So this is if you can see here, this is H1 here. This is the tag name, the tag for if I'm not mistaken, let's see, let's try to see. I open here. So this is the tag for this particular text H1. So this is what I can relate to what have Mr. Gary talked earlier this morning. So it will take up the tag of the element here to show that we will pick this one. Then we will save it. So we can do some preview here to see if we get the text that we wanted to. So then I might add another one, let's say the price. I select this price. So there is two price here, one with the bold one and another one with the price over quantity. So for me, I want to take this price as a price, because the next selector, I want to pick the units for each of units for the price. So it might be per kg, or it might be each, it might be per pack or whatsoever. So first thing first, we need to understand the structure of the website, because from this website, the price in the bold font here, it appears to show different price depends on quantity. So, but the price here is, it mentioned the units for the price. So it will be easier for us to get to know how much is the price for by units. So save here, and then I add another selector. and I put in a unit. Save. I think I have. Hold on, I know that my screen are not sharing because my Zoom is connecting right now. I'm really sorry. Suhaika, please accept me back into the room.
Accept.
Right. All right. I have some network issue here. All right. So so now I have I'm showing some example here. So I have the information on the title, I have the price information, and I have the unit information. So I can go back to the selector graph. So now here I can see from each product link, so I will get this information. And when I go to the next page, so I will get another product link, and then I will get this the same information, and then we'll go to another page until at the end of the page. So then we can do the scraping. So I will scrap here. So then it will scrap all the data from the. So this is the what web scraper can do, but it's still limited when the page is so many page. So sometimes we cannot go beyond. There's one sites that I'm trying to crawl from using this web scraper, and I only can go up until 100 page. So, but there's another website then that I can go to up until page 150. So it depends on that particular website. So whatever it is, this is just a tool that might give you some clue and might give us some information that we can try first to get to understand how does the web scraping works. So let's say I refresh the data here. So now I get the data from here. So below here is the data that I already got from each of the page. So then we can export it to a CSV file. All right. So this is some example of a web scraping tool that that for me it's important for us to first to get to know, to get familiar this how web scraping can do, how these tools can do, and before we create our own web scraper engine, our own web scraping tools using Python. So this will lead us, and maybe for me to give me a better understand, and might lead me to catch up faster when we go to the Python coding, about the tag, about the element, about the parent and child and siblings. So there's so many terms that in web scraping will in Python web scraping code that from this particular tools can help us to understand more, and it will make easier for us to build our own code. So I think that's all from me. If there is any question, you might ask at the chat, or you might turn on your mic. Thanks. Over to you. Any question?
No, no question.
So if there is no question, then I'll end my presentation today. I hope everyone get something from my presentation, and I hope that if there is some question or there's some clarification you need, then you might as well get back to us. And I think this is a very good knowledge sharing session. Then there's a lot of improvement that we need to do here in Malaysia, and there's a lot of me myself, there's a lot of things that I still need to learn. So I'm looking forward to always get engaged with all of you, to share some knowledge, to get some knowledge from all of you. Thanks very much. Thank you. Over to you, Pak Soeka.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wan Ahmad Ridwan, for your presentation and sharing the knowledge. It is precious something because it is not only individual skill, I believe, because it's required regular practice in order to get value from the web scraping. The one that has been shared is complement to what have been shared by BPS Indonesia. What have been shared from the BPS about Python is from the detailed perspective, while from the DOSM share about web scraping in high level. So audience can figure out about the picture from the top and from the bottom level or in detail level, we can get the knowledge from the BPS. Personally, it is very interesting about our topic today. Thank you for our trainer to share about the knowledge and the experience. For tomorrow, the third day, mean the last day in the second part, the class will be split between the data scientist and also the data engineer. Please remember, you choose the correct link corresponding to your stream, whether data scientist or data engineer. Since tomorrow is Friday, where some of the participants need to attend the Friday prayer, but we will start the class earlier, so we can meet the target of the training. Okay, thank you again for your participation, and we meet again tomorrow. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.